No Place Like Oz, Chapter 15. We spent hours sitting around the breakfast table. Long after the plates had cleared themselves and the morning had passed into afternoon, we'd laugh and conversated, retelling stories of our old adventures, and some new stories too. The lion told me of his adventures in the northern lands, exotic by even Oz standards, and the Tin Woodman told me all about his experiences governing the unruly Rinky folk. I told the story of my 16th birthday, and I saw that it had moved my tin friend so greatly that a tear was trickling down his metal face. "Oh dear," he said. Then he saw that I had caught him in his tender-heartedness. He dabbed at his face with a napkin. "This heart of mine is a wonderful gift, but it does make rust a significant concern." Soon after, he and the Scarecrow decided it was time to go tidy themselves. The lion ventured off to the forest just outside the city for his morning jog. I was still trying to decide what I was going to do what was left of the day when Jellia Jam, Ozma's handmaid, appeared, summoning to meet the princess in her gardens. The day was sunny and warm, and I found her sitting on a wrought iron bench next to the twinkling fountain. She was looking fondly at the tiny little pixie who was perched on her extended finger. They seemed to be deep in conversation. "Oh!" Ozma exclaimed when she saw me approaching. The pixie went fluttering away. "The little thing was just telling me the silliest joke. Everyone thinks these pixies are so irritable, but I think they're amusing. Anyway, they're part of Oz, aren't they? And everything here has its place in the order of things." Is she kidding? I wondered. This little Miss Sunshine act would make Shirley Temple herself want to tap dance right off a cliff. "Anyway," she said brightly, "I want to talk to you about something." I folded my arms and prepared myself for the haughty lecture she was going to give me about how I'd lied to her about the shoes, that she had warned me not to do magic, and how I had the nerve to disobey her, about how reckless she thought I was being. Maybe she didn't know it, but even if I was in Oz, I was still a citizen of the United States, and where I came from, we didn't put much stock in self-appointed monarchs, no matter whether their blood was blue or purple or sprinkled with fairy dust. Sometimes even a princess can surprise you, though. "I think I'd like to throw you a big party," Ozma said. "What do you think about that?" She caught me off guard. "What kind of party?" I asked, suspicious. A party? I was sure she'd seen what I'd done at the breakfast table. Even if she hadn't felt me magicking her, she had to have noticed me casting a spell on Henry. I'd seen the expression on her face. Now she wanted to throw me a party? There had to be some sort of catch. Ozma stood up and did a playful little pirouette across the grass, and I remembered suddenly that, fairy princesses or not, she was really just a girl who was lonely, a girl who had been wanting and waiting for someone like me to keep her company. She needed me. Maybe she was willing to let a spell here and there slide. What's a little magic between girlfriends, right? "Oh, a wonderful party," she said dreamily. "I don't suppose you're sick of your birthday part already, are you?" 16 is a big one, I allowed hesitantly. "Perfect," she exclaimed. "It's been too long since I threw a ball. We so rarely have an occasion. I don't even know when my own birthday is. Isn't that terrible? But all of Oz loves a party, and the whole city's already abuzz with your return. A celebration is in order." I had to admit, I liked the sound of it. The party Aunt Em threw for me was, well, it wasn't quite what either of us hoped, I said. "Maybe this can be a do-over. I'm sure it would make her happy, too, to get it right this time." Ozma clapped her hands. "Of course, a do-over," she said, the word as if she'd never heard it before, as if she was savoring each syllable as it rolled off her tongue. "We'll invite everyone," she said, "the Munchkins, the Winkies, even the Gnomes and the Pixies, and the Winged Monkeys, and all of Oz's most important personalities. Polychrome will come from the Rainbow Falls, and I hope the Wogglebug can tear himself away from his classes at the university. I'll even invite General Ginger, though I'm sure she won't make it. She's not much for dances." Ozma rolled her eyes. "I have to tell you about Ginger and her all-girl army sometime." I sat on a bench and studied her as she drifted into party-planning reverie. To think I'd almost sympathized with her when she complained about the burdens of royalty. If this was the extent of her duties, it didn't seem so bad at all. Still, a party. For me. What better way for me to announce my return to Oz for good? Ozma slid back down into the bench beside me and draped a slender arm over my shoulder. Her wrist of bangles glinted in the sunlight. "And," she said, raising her eyebrows in conspiracy, "it will be the perfect way to show your aunt and uncle what fun it is here. Once they've seen a royal ball, they'll never think of going home. You won't need Even need to use those special shoes of yours to convince them." The words hung in the air. So there it was. I'd almost let her trick me into buying her act. "I don't know what you mean," I sniffed. I wasn't fooling anyone. Naturally, she knew, and I knew. She knew it, and I knew she knew, and she knew I knew she knew. But I didn't want to give her that satisfaction of hearing me come clean. "Oh, Dorothy," she said, "you don't need to hide it. I know those shoes were enchanted from the moment I laid eyes on them, and I don't blame you for experimenting with them. Magic can be quite intoxicating." Her eyes darkened. Too intoxicating. She said, the sing-song of her voice giving way to sternness. "So let's just give them up, okay? That way you won't be tempted." She twirled a finger and pointed at my feet, at my beautiful shiny shoes. A green spark sizzled from her fingertip, zigzagged through the air, and bounced right off my heel. The shoes glowed in response to the result, but they didn't budge. Ozma frowned, seeing that her spell didn't work. I was already on my feet, spun around and faced her in rage. "They're mine," I said. "She gave them to me, and you can't do anything about it." Ozma's mild smile didn't flicker. She was one cool cucumber when she set her mind to it. I had to give her that much. "She?" the princess asked, cocking her head to the side. "Don't play innocent," I hissed. "Neither of us were born yesterday. You know who she is. Glinda. What, were you jealous of her? Did you want her out of the way so you could keep all the power for yourself?" Ozma put a hand to her cheek like she'd just been slapped. She shook her head. "You're not in your right mind. Those shoes. The magic is already beginning to twist you, the way it did with—" I didn't care to let her finish. I was too upset. Rightfully so, I should say. Glinda had been the one who watched over Oz while she'd been off wherever she was, and Ozma had gone and done away with her without so much as a "how do you do." She had some nerve playing innocent with me now, as if I was anything other than a power grub worthy of a true tyrant. "A scarecrow's one thing," I said, sneering openly. "You surely got him out of the palace fast enough. A sorceress, though? That's another story, isn't it? Couldn't have her mucking things up for you, now could you?" Ozma bit her lip and looked away, like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Glinda didn't have Oz's best interests at heart," she murmured. "Trust me, Dorothy. I know that she was kind to you, but the sorceress was not everything that she appears at first. I had no choice. It's my duty to keep Oz safe." "Naturally," I said. "After all, you're the one true ruler, and anyone else can just fall in line. Why, you call yourself a fairy, but you're no better than a wicked witch, and you know my history with them." Ozma's gaze turned steely at my threat, and I knew that she wasn't through with arguing. She rose to her feet. "I need the shoes. Now." Ozma reached for her scepter on the bench. "It's for your own good." I didn't give her a chance to get it. It was easy peasy this time. I barely even had to think about what I was doing. With every spell I cast, I was becoming more powerful. It was like my shoes were doing the work for me. This time, I could actually see the magic with my own two eyes as it unspooled from my palm as a gauzy scarlet thread and curled toward her. Ozma could see it too. Her eyes widened in dismay, and she took an unsteady step back. I guess she hadn't expected this. That would teach her to underestimate me, Dorothy Gale, the witch slayer herself. There was nothing she could do. My magic was already twisting its way into her skull like a corkscrew. Her gaze turned to mush. The side of her face drooped a little bit. I felt a sick joy in my chest as I used the magical filament like a piece of dental floss, pulling back and forth with my mind, carefully scraping Ozma's memory clean of our conversation. When I changed Uncle Henry's mind just a few hours ago, I'd sworn to myself that I wouldn't do it again, but then I had, just a few moments later, and now I was literally changing Ozma's mind, sprucing it up and making it presentable the way one would change the sheets to a bed. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I had the vaguest notion that I was the one being wicked, but I found that I didn't care. In fact, I almost enjoyed it. I made her forget the shoes, and her talk of Glinda, and the incident with Uncle Henry at the breakfast table. When I was done, I was just Dorothy Gale, her dear friend and confidant, a spunky, headstrong girl from Kansas, to whom the people of Oz, her loyal subjects, owed a debt of gratitude. Or three. A girl with an unusually lovely pair of red high heels. I kept her party idea, though. No point in throwing the baby out with the bathwater, is there?